Hi guys, so today I'm going to be showing you how to install one of these 12 volt car power outlet things. So you've got your 3 right here, and it's in a little bracket that I got, and you have your positive and your negative, right? So the positive is the one that's attached to this nut, and the negative is on the outside in all of these cases. So there's one down there, one up here, and one right there. So, it's a pretty simple setup. You're going to have your power wire or your hot wire going to your power source, and you're going to have the negative terminal here going to your ground. And so you're going to have a minimum of 2 wires for each outlet here. Now, the key is you want to bring that number of wires down to like 2, because you don't want to, unless you want to, but I don't think it's good to have a bunch of wires, inside of your car. You want to have a nice, clean install with just, 2 simple wires. So, I'm going to show you guys what I do, and we'll go from there. All right, guys. So you're going to need some wire. This is just insulated copper wire. I picked this up at the junkyard, and then you need some of these connectors. I got a whole box. You can get this at like Home Depot, but for this install, you're gonna want this end connector. Then you're gonna take a pair of wire strippers. I got this at Home Depot for like $5 or $6, I think. And you're going to identify the gauge wire that you're using. And if you don't know what gauge, that's fine, because you can simply just put it inside the wire strippers like this, and pick whichever one fits relatively snug and start pulling to strip away the wire. I'm going to do that off camera so I don't waste your time there. But eventually you're going to want to strip out the end of this wire, just so that the copper strands are remaining, and then you're going to put this connector on, and you're going to make sure that wire, obviously the exposed wire is inside here, and then you're going to take the crimping portion of your tool, which is right here, and you're going to go like that, so you can see better. You're going to go like that and press down, and that'll crimp the wire down. So I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Alright guys, so this is what it looks like. So I have my red wire, I've got my blue crimped connection, so I stripped away the wire, I put it inside this terminal, and then you can see sort of how this is bent, and that's because I used the wire crimping tool to basically crimp down and give this a secure connection. So I can pull on this and nothing happens. So that's what you want. You can put some of this heat shrink, something like this, over it before you do, and then heat it up. It's not necessary. Perhaps if you're doing an outdoor install, it's going to be sitting in the engine bay, then you might want to, but this is going to be inside the car, and so I think we'll be good with just this. So let's get on to the next step. Alright guys, so the next thing that you want to do is you want to pick up a fusible link like this. So this, or it's called add a fuse, but what it is it's basically an inline fuse. You can pop this cover off and you have right there a 30 amp fuse. You can pick these up at AutoZone, Amazon, eBay, but you're going to want one of these. Now what I did here is I took the previous wire that we crimped and added this connector to, and instead of soldering or connecting this, I put it inside another connector, right, with this end, and I crimped it down. And the reason I did that is now I can actually add another connection if I wanted to, right? So if I wanted to take, and I'm just using this as an example, another wire, right, and I put, let's say a connector like this, and now it'll go in there, no problems, right? This might be the wrong size, but it'll go in there, and now I can add more connections. When you do this, you want to be careful with the gauge wire that you're using, as you may have to increase the thickness or you know, the diameter of the wire because you're going to be using more current. So keep that in mind. But this is basically what you want, and again, you don't need this. You can just have from your connector all the way down to your inline fuse. So now let's take it to our 12-volt power outlet, and I'll show you what's next. All right, guys. So this is the power outlet that you saw earlier. So what I'm going to do is, this is the positive. I've used this red cable to show that. And so you're going to take this and you're going to plug it into your positive terminal like that. And I did the same thing for the negative, and I'm using a black wire for that. You see with the same ending or connector. I'm going to put it in there till it clicks. You hear it, or feel it rather. And I did the same thing where I added an extra connector if I want to add more fuses, right? So that's one. And now we have two more. Now if you wanted to, you could do what I did here and add a ground and a positive. And again, you'd have 6 wires, right? But that'd be a little messy. So I'm going to show you initially how you start with 6 wires and you bring it down. I think it'll be easier if I did it and then I showed you guys afterwards how it works. Alright guys, so that connector that I added right before my little inline fuse here, that was going to the positive, and I simply just hooked it up to the second power outlet here, and same with the ground. So now, instead of having 2 sets of wires from here and 2 sets of wires from here, I have 1 wire connecting the 2, and I'm remaining with 1 black wire and 1 red wire, and so I'm still connected to 2. So I can do the same thing for a third one, but with this gauge wire and the kind of equipment I'm going to be running, I want to add a separate wire, and then we'll bring it down to 2. Alright guys, so that connector that I added right before my little inline fuse here, that was going to the positive, and I simply just hooked it up to the second power outlet here, and same with the ground. So now, instead of having 2 sets of wires from here and 2 sets of wires from here, I have 1 wire connecting the 2, and I'm remaining with 1 black wire and 1 red wire, and so I'm still connected to 2. So I can do the same thing for a third one, but with this gauge wire and the kind of equipment I'm going to be running, I want to add a separate wire, and then we'll bring it down to 2. Okay guys, so I connected another power and another ground, and I did the same thing where I added these extra connectors by putting 2 wires in this, crimping it, and now if I want to, I can add another one of these outlets. I also added a removable fuse, or an inline fuse here. So now I've got 2 inline fuses, and they will power all 3, or serve as a fuse for all 3 of these. This one will serve for these 2, and this inline fuse will serve for that one. So at this point, you should have a total of 4 wires, right? You're going to have 2 red and 2 black, even though we've got 3 outlets. What you want to do next is you want to take the ends of your 2 red wires here, and you're going to use, well, this is what's in hand. This is an old one. But you're going to use one of these crimp connectors. This one, as you can, like I said, is used, and you're going to stick both of these into this connector here and crimp down on it. You know, you can solder inside if you want, and then you're going to take a thicker wire, because this is what's going to go to your power source, and you're going to crimp it down. So now you're taking 2 wires and you're making it into 1. And there's other ways to do this, but this is what I did. And then I did the same for the ground. I already did it here. So I put this connector, and this is some heat shrink I put over it, which is why you can't see it. So now you have, at the end, what you should have is you should have 1 ground and 1 positive wire. So it's going to look like, it's going to look relatively simple in that you're only going to have 2 wires, and it'll look something like this. So you have the outlet, you have all your wires, and then the 2 grounds on the left, the 2 positives on the right, This one I still need to connect here, and then it's going to lead to something like this. And this is going to go to your power source in your car, whether it be your battery, which is what I recommend, or another power source. And this is going to go to a solid metal ground. And after you do that, these should work at the outlets. And suppose you run something that's, has too much current or something, it'll simply blow one of these fuses. And you want to pick a fuse that is going to withstand the amount of current that is running in these wires and in whatever device that you're running. So that's how I do my install, and I hope this video is helpful for anyone who's thinking about